Entre os vários aniversários cinematográficos comemorados no ano de 2012, teve um que não foi muito lembrado não, que passou até meio despercebido. Os 35 anos da estreia de Star Wars, que antigamente se chamava Guerra nas Estrelas, e agora todo mundo fala Star Wars. Bom, tudo bem, ele pode ter passado despercebido por aí, mas não aqui no Cine Mundi, que mostra para você como foram criados os personagens da clássica saga Star Wars.
It has become a cultural phenomenon. Its motifs, phrases,
May the Force be with you,
and characters are a part of the consciousness of millions of people around the globe. And though the Star Wars universe might seem to have sprung fully formed from the consciousness of George Lucas, the truth is it might have been a very different place.
Originally, the story was about Luke Starkiller, and Starkiller was ultimately the father, and the twins were his kids. And then that eventually evolved into the story being about one of the twins, and that the father being the bad guy. And it went through a lot of different drafts of moving the story around and trying to get the right fit.
Though they populate a galaxy far, far away, the characters of Star Wars embody classic archetypes from myth and legend.
Good luck.
Lucas spent over 2 years developing the screenplay, carefully fitting the pieces together.
As you write a screenplay, you sort of move characters around. It's like a chess set. You have a certain set of main characters, you have secondary characters, you have sidekicks, you have villains, and you have henchmen. And you kind of move these around to figure out how the story is going to play itself out.
No character represents a more primal archetype than the hero of Star Wars, Luke Skywalker.
There is no particular character in mythology or in stories that connect directly with Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is a hero, and it's more generic. It's more of a motif that comes out of the various books that are written about mythology and fairy tales, such as Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces.
The dashing figure of Luke Skywalker was destined to capture the imagination of a generation of filmgoers. But would he have been as popular had he been played by perhaps Kenny Baker?
There was a point where Luke Skywalker was going to be a midget, and all the people on the farm and everything, the aunt and the uncle and that whole group were all going to be little people.
That boy is our last hope.
No, there is another.
It was always about these twins and their father. That was sort of the only thing that's sort of been a constant through the whole thing. And then you usually have the sidekick, whose morals and everything else are very opposite of the hero. And so they kind of disagree on things. And in this case, one of the main themes is compassion and helping one another. Of selflessness as opposed to selfishness. So I have one character who's very selfless.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
And another one who's very selfish.
I ain't in this for your revolution, and I'm not in it for you, Princess. I expect to be well paid. I'm in it for the money.
While several of the Star Wars characters are drawn from myth and legend, Han Solo's sidekick Chewbacca was inspired by a more personal relationship.
My original inspiration for Chewbacca was my dog Indiana. She was the one that sat there with me as I was writing the script all the time. She'd ride in the car with me and be my co-pilot. And when she'd sit in the car, she would be as tall as I am. She was an Alaskan Malamute. She was very big. I thought that was a funny image. And as I was looking for a kind of alien co-pilot for Han Solo, I immediately thought of Indiana.
We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
One of the movies that inspired me in the beginning of Star Wars was Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress. It's about two peasants who were kind of the lowest social level in feudal Japan. Traveling with a general and a princess and very, very aristocratic people. So the story is told from their point of view. It's the lowest social category watching this adventure that is taking place on the grandest level of international diplomacy. They're designed as a kind of Mutt and Jeff, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy comic relief to the movie.
I've just about had enough of you. Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile. And don't let me catch you following me, begging for help, because you won't get it.
In order to make the comic relief work, you have to create two characters that are very, very different from one another. So I made one a little astro droid that had no human resemblance at all. And then the other one, which was a more elegant translator droid that was more anthropomorphic in nature and more programmed to interface with human beings.
I am C-3PO, human-cyborg relations, and this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
Hello.
Originally, there was the good father, the bad father, and the good father was Anakin Starkiller, and the bad villain was Darth Vader. In the course of writing the scripts, those two characters switched around a little bit, and I went back and forth. Ultimately, they merged into being one character.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
The idea that Darth Vader was becoming more machine than man, and that he was losing his soul, and that he was losing his humanness, was a main theme.
In the case of Darth Vader, Lucas's initial design concept evoked Bedouin warriors of the Arabian Peninsula.
George came in and described Darth Vader to me as a figure that fluttered in on the wind, a very dark, spooky character. He might have a big helmet on like a Japanese medieval warrior.
McQuarrie quickly realized the practical realities of space travel would affect his designs for the character. His solution would come to be one of Darth Vader's most sinister traits.
He's going to have to come from one spacecraft and they're going to blow a hole in this tunnel and come into this other spacecraft. I started to get worried about him having to cross this space in a vacuum without a spacesuit. So George kind of reluctantly said, well, go ahead and give him some sort of breathing mask. Like everything I was doing, we said we'd get to a certain point and he'd say, okay, that's fine. Let's go on to something else. We left Darth Vader the way I had it, and he got into the film pretty much like I painted him.
I'm not afraid.
You will be.
You think of Star Wars today, 25 years after the original release, and you sort of don't remember the special effects, but you remember the characters. It's the creation of Darth Vader and Han Solo and Yoda and Luke Skywalker and Chewbacca. It's the characters that remain.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Who's scruffy-looking?
To be fair, you have to start with George's genius for understanding human nature and film.
There's nothing for me here now. I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
These mythologies have stood the test of time and become beloved by audiences because of the fact that they have such wonderfully created and performed characters.
Great shot, kid! That was 1 in a million!
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
E se Star Wars se passava numa galáxia muito distante, o Cine Mundi foi quase até o fim do mundo para fazer uma matéria especial sobre um novo filme que vai rolar agora em 2013. Você fica sabendo de tudo já já, depois do intervalo.